Look at the Peanuts World!
Welcome to Peanuts World. This is Peanuts Dad, and this is a special video series. This is part one in a two-part series. I'm going to show how we taught Peanut to swim. And she went from a crying little girl afraid to get her head wet here, and now about a year later she's able to get around pretty good. Not a technical swimmer by any stretch, but very comfortable in the water. She's even been on the boogie board, and we'll show some footage of that later on, probably maybe in another video. But anyway, what we did, we put her in a three-part series of classes, and in this particular location they have Grunion 1, Grunion 2, and Grunion 3, and from there she progressed on to me teaching her personally, and that's what I'll show in the part 2 in the series. So as you can see, this level 1, it's mainly about learning to get comfortable getting their head wet and underwater. But at the end of the class, they did attempt to go off the diving board. You can see Peanut's really scared to go off. Ends up needing the help of the teacher to kind of basically toss her into the water. And I think she cries a little here. Yeah. Starting into the level 2 class, you can see she's a little more comfortable out there. Looks like a happy little girl. And this is the Grunion 2, and continue on with comfortable getting your head wet. And here's, she's trying to get her to do it on her own. They do a lot of the blowing bubbles and back floats. Back floats seem to be pretty important. Front floats, a little less common, but did a good bit of those. And kicking, using the legs, remembering to use the legs. This noodle thing was not as common. I only saw that a few times. But getting the hands out into the right form there. And more kicking, more back floating. Essentially just rinse and repeat. The classes go on for about 5 or 6 weeks, I believe it is, twice a week. And it's about a 40-minute session each time, something like that. Okay, my favorite part was this part where they take these fish that are submersible, they sink, and just toss them in the water, and all the kids try to round them up. There's always one kid, who's getting the most and sort of in the way. I think we can see who that is here, but Peanut was pretty slow at first. You can see her trying to pick them up with her feet. After I saw that, we had a talk in the car, and I explained the whole idea was to get her head wet, and so she ends up doing a lot better in the later ones there. Use the right cup form with the hands when practicing the strokes, and throwing the toy and going after it. See that a lot. When she first started doing these back floats, she was always lifting her head forward, and you could tell she wasn't relaxed, and their teacher's telling her to look up. Eventually, you can tell when she starts getting more comfortable, the head just relaxes back on its own. Here using the kickboard to practice kicking on the back. So yeah, we did eventually get her some goggles as she got comfortable getting her head wet, and those really help a lot. I highly recommend those. Then she's able to collect these fish a little more efficiently. She's never quite able to assert herself yet, but she's improving every time, so I was feeling good about her progress. When she passed these first 2 levels, on the first try. Yeah, this part's kind of funny. The teacher's going to try to get her to do backstroke style, and I think this is one of her first times. She does start out kind of doing a backstroke, and then towards the end it's just like a front stroke. Yeah, I think the teacher just lets it go here. Yeah, and here you can see she's bulldogging herself a little more now, not letting the one kid control everything as much, which was pretty great. So at the end of the Grunion 2, they move them out to the little bit deeper water. I think it's 4 feet deep there. It's kind of a preview of the Grunion 3, but they go a little further on their different kicks and floats and whatnot. And Peanut was never able to jump in on her own in Grunion 2. She was able to do it finally in Grunion 3. Speaking of Grunion 3, you can see that they're all already starting in the deeper area, and the first couple of days they do the head bobs, get your head completely wet, and then kicks, basically covering the stuff at the end of Grunion 2. The fish hunts definitely start to get a little more aggressive. So what was really new in this class is they start having to swim out towards the teacher like this. You can see her Peanut didn't quite make it, starts to go under, and she gets further and further back, and it's not really a full swim because she's kind of giving them a push, and here she didn't quite make it back. And I think she cried there, but the teachers kind of get catching them if they start to go under. And the other thing was diving for these rings that the teacher would put on the bottom of the pool. She would put them right below, have them look and locate it, and then try to get them to go get it. Peanut wouldn't do that at first. She was scared that it was too deep. Ended up having to take her for some personal training. Took her out for one day at the pool where we just gradually got deeper and deeper until she was comfortable getting it. And then the last time they did it in this class, she was able to finally get it. So the biggest detractor I would say about these classes is your kid only gets a fraction of the attention. So you can see most of the time the other kids are just sitting around. I mean, there's only 5 kids in this class, so your kid's getting at least 20% of the attention, which isn't terrible, and they're seeing other kids do it, which encourages them. But at the same time, it takes a little more. That's where you'll see me taking her for some individual one-on-one. I mean, this whole thing you're seeing highlights that I shot where she's doing something. You're not seeing all the time where she was standing around kind of bored or cold or not getting anything out of it other than, you know, watching other kids do it. But she definitely benefited from these classes a lot. I'm very glad that we did it, that these teachers were great. It's a good program that she went to. I'm sure there's loads of other good programs too. But as a surfer and a former lifeguard with loads of swimming experience, I wanted to start her out with some sort of formal training, and then ultimately move her under my tutelage, again, which you'll see in more of that in part 2. And again, you know, she started out here. She was only 3 years old, and she's 4 now, and she's doing pretty good. She's able to go off the diving board on her own right there at the end, which was pretty impressive. Made Dad pretty proud. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. Be sure to stick around for part 2. In there, I'll have the GoPro cam, some underwater footage.